Hello and welcome to my channel, my respected friends and viewers. Today, we will look into the last of the 10 issues we identified recently that are seriously affecting Australians in the year 2025. Today's topic is dedicated to our aged care services towards our seniors. Background: in March 2021, the Royal Commission made 148 recommendations in Australian Parliament. The Commission estimated that nearly 40% of aged care residents have experienced some form of abuse, most commonly neglect, 30.8%, followed by emotional abuse, about 22.6%. Neglect was the most common form of abuse, including concerns about help with showering or going to the toilet, managing medications, and looking after wounds. The rate of reported emotional abuse was, as mentioned, 22.6%, including being treated like a child or shouted at. Physical abuse, such as being restrained or treated roughly by staff, was reported at 5%. SPA 21st December recording. So, what is this broken promise? Australia's aged care crisis deepens. The unethics of aged care, neglect, abuse, and fraud. Why the Royal Commission's reforms have failed. Royal Commission delivered a damning verdict on our aged care system. Australia made promise of a new era of respect and safety. 4 years later, the promise appears broken. Instead of dignity for the seniors, we see malnutrition. Instead of safety, we see violence, falls, and fraud. It's a national shame. Today, we are going to make a thorough attempt to find the truth behind the headlines. The systemic neglect that leaves half our elders hungry, the horrific abuse that persists behind closed doors, and the criminal network profiting from their suffering. But we won't just dwell on the darkness, we will also chart a path forward, demanding the urgent systemic changes that our most vulnerable citizens deserve. So we see a collapse of the operations. And the numbers: malnutrition, 50% of residents, according to the Royal Commission. Dangerous understaffing, up to 90% of facilities are understaffed, with ratios as dire as one nurse per 30 residents, according to Australian Nurse and Midwife Federation Foundation. Epidemic of abuse: one in three serious incidents reported involve physical or sexual violence. These numbers are not just metrics, they represent our grandparents, our parents, our neighbors. A ratio of 1 to 30 means a nurse might have less than 3 minutes per hour for each resident. That's not care, it's crisis management. The $27 billion question is, where is the money going? Financial drain: the sector receives over 27 billion in annual government funding, yet outcome remains poor. Department of Health: human cost: over 250,000 older or elder citizens, Australians, access residential and home care packages, each one at a potential risk. The $27 billion are clearly not reaching the bedside, not funding enough quality food, and not paying enough staff to provide basic dignity. This data paint a picture of a system that is not just struggling but fundamentally breaking down, falling in its most basic duty, failing in its most basic duty of care to generate that builds this country. Unseen horror, unlawful sexual contacts. Quarterly data from AIHW shows between 450 to 633 reported incidents of unlawful sexual contacts every 3 months from 2021 to 2023. This persistent trend shows no sign of decline, indicating a systemic failure or operations failure. These are only the reported incidents. For residents with dementia or communication barriers, reporting is nearly impossible. This graph is probably one of the most disturbing document in Australia. It doesn't show a spike, it shows a flat line of horror. Over 500 reports of sexual assaults every quarter for years. Let that sink in. And experts agree this is a gross undercount. Uh, Process continues. Abuse is perpetrated by both staff and other residents, often in an environment lacking supervision. This constitutes a rolling nationwide crisis of safety for vulnerable elders. For an elder with advanced dementia who cannot speak or is not believed, their suffering is invisible. This data proves that the current safeguards, background checks, training modules are utterly insufficient. We are leaving our most vulnerable citizens, our seniors, in situation of profound and predictable danger. This isn't a series of isolated incidents, it's a predictable. Sydney. So, on one side, we are having these issues of not being able to provide the care that is supposed to. On the other hand, some of these very providers are profiting from the pain of our seniors. Sydney providers convicted of 5.8 million fraud scheme billing for services never rendered. Paul Kevan, jailed for stealing 400,000 in NDIS funds spent on personal luxuries. Whistleblower revelation cocoon SDA care exposed for misusing hundreds of millions of dollars. While residents go malnourished, a parallel economy of fraud is thriving. This isn't just petty theft, it is organized crime siphoning millions away from the care into luxury lifestyles. The Tilbury case is a flagrant example, but the more insidious problem is finessing. A provider is caught, shut down, and simply reappears the next week or month under a different name, continuing to receive government subsidies. National Senior Australia has recently warned the seniors about aged care scams becoming increasingly prevalent, with criminals targeting older Australians and their families. Commonwealth Fraud Prevention Centre reported a Melbourne woman was convicted of fraud after using 600,000 worth of residence deposit from an aged care facility. The company went into liquidation shortly afterwards, leaving 42 residents without a home and debt of $4.5 million. She deceived residents when she told them their deposit money would be held in a trust account and that interest gained from the money would be used to reduce accommodation fees. The fraud problem goes on. Blacklisted provider routinely shut down and reopen under new ABNs and practice known as finessing. The complexity of funding system, NDIS and aged care creates loopholes exploited by these criminals. There is no effective national register to stop this. This means families searching for care might unknowingly place their loved one in the facility run by same people who have already been caught neglecting or abusing residents. We are subsidizing the abuse of our elders and letting these criminals opening up again, banning them for a couple of years. That is not justice to our seniors. In Feb 5, 2025, NDIS Commission reported people who have been banned from providing NDIS service fraudulently, making multi-millions, including Dr. Sanjay Parashar, with many luxurious villas, cars, gold, etc. He claimed to have earned $8 million in just 1 year due to NDIS and ADF customers. He is now said to be director of many companies, including the Australian Health Company and the Food Specialist Australia. Both of these companies have been banned now to practice for 3 years. Why 3 years? Without any further prosecution. A Facebook info says he's overseas and says he planned to leave Australia and settle in Italy. NDIS Commission also reported on 23rd May 2025 that Jaydeep Singh and Harmeet Singh, operating Nandish Service Pty Limited and operating six different trading names, different businesses, accused of using 40 million of NDIS money to buy many properties, luxury cars, etc. They are also banned for some years. Inequality of neglect, impact on diverse communities. Indigenous elders face double the rate of neglect than the cultural isolation, often removed from country and kin. While overall abuse rates are similar, approximately 15%, women report higher rate and face language barriers to reporting. People with disability experience significantly higher abuse rate, 21%, showing a dangerous intersection of vulnerability. Financial abuse slightly lower in rural communities, but isolation and fear of uh, authorities can prevent reporting. The crisis is not experienced equally. Our system, built on one size fits all model, fails those who don't fit the mold. For an indigenous elder, care away from country is a form of cultural violence. For an Italian Australian woman with dementia, losing her first language means she cannot express her pain or her needs. For an elder with physical disability, inadequate staffing means they cannot get help to the bathroom, leading to humiliation and physical harm. The data shows that these layered vulnerabilities create a perfect storm for abuse and neglect. True reform must be intersectional, designing care from the ground up with these specific communities, not imposing a flawed standard model upon them. Indigenous specific crises, cultural dislocation, removal from traditional lands, unacceptable. Lack of culturally safe care, extreme shortage of indigenous staff. Data black hole, no national audit tracks outcome for indigenous elders. Services in remote communities are critically understaffed. Another factor. The Royal Commission had called for culturally safe indigenous led care remain largely unimplemented. The crisis is not experienced equally. Our system, built on a one size fit all model, fail those who don't fit in this. Carrying on, the first stop to fixing ratios and oversight legislates safe staffing. Mandate a minimum of one nurse per eight residents. I think from 30 to 1 ratio, bringing down to 8 to 1 would make a difference. And that is what is required with our seniors care needs. Mandatory criminal checks for all staff and management and their supervision, and financial transparency is needed. Mandate public reporting of how government funding is spent per facility, for instance, on food, on staff, and on profit. by the providers. The first step to fixing the crisis is to stop the bleeding. We need laws. Guidelines are ignored. Laws will be enforced. Enforced and enforced adequate staffing ratio should be non-negotiable. They will become the bedrock of safety and dignity. Secondly, sunlight is the best disinfectant. A public register would empower families to make informed choices and shame bad actors out of business. Why should a provider be able to hide its history of abuse behind a new company name? Finally, we need real oversight. The current system of announced audit is a joke. It allows facilities to stage manage their performance. Frequent surprise inspection and financial transparency will force providers to put funding where it belongs, that is, into the care. Empower people, whistleblowers, and home care. Whistleblowers immunity for staff who reported abuse or fraud. Public portal for reporting abuse usable by staff, families, and residents is required. Tax rebates for home care, financial incentives should be provided for families who choose to care for elders at home, easing pressure on residential facilities. Home care packages slash waiting time from currently approximately 9 months to under 30 days. We need to look after our seniors. Direct grant to develop and run culturally specific care, including Indigenous led and called specific services. We must shift power from providers back to people. Staff on the front line sees abuse first, but are often too scared to speak up. Ironclad whistleblowers protection is essential. Families and residents also need a direct, simple line to regulators bypassing facility management. Secondly, the best way to fix aged care is to help people avoid it. Let's support families who want to keep loved ones at home with tax rebates and immediate access to home care packages. This is kinder, cheaper, and what most elders want. Fund indigenous communities to care for their elders on country. Fund Italian speaking carers for Italian communities. One size fits all care is a failure. Personalized, cultural, safe care is the future. The human and economic argument. As a society, we are judged by how we treat our most vulnerables. We are currently failing this test. Preventing neglect save monies, better staffing reduce hospitalization from falls, infections, and malnutritions. Workforce crisis, improving wages and conditions is the only way to attract and retain the skilled, compassionate staff the sector desperately needs. Future proofing with an aging population, this crisis will only explode. Investing in a sustainable system now is critical. Australians are demanding change. Media exposes and public outrage are creating unstoppable momentum for reform. Furthermore, um, we face a massive workforce shortage, and we cannot attract people to a sector known for low pay, brutal condition, and moral injury. We must make aged care a valued profession. And what is fueling this matter is fake college and fake diplomas and certificates. Aged Care Insight report on August 11, 2025, the 3,717 graduate qualifications were cancelled in the field of mental health, aged care, disability, childcare, and community services. The same happened with the graduates from SPES, as 4,200 qualifications issued to these very qualifications were cancelled. Now contrast this with the SBS News, August 20, 2025, informing nearly 620,000 migrants are working below their qualifications, clearly suggesting we do not have a national migrant skill map placement program, resulting they work underemployed in wrong areas while unqualified overseas professionals, so called, and locally fake college producing fake graduate is continually distorting this skill industry market. Let me say this whole episode is about who we are. Do we want to be a country that abandons its elders to abuse and fraud, or do we want to build a system that reflects our values of compassion, respect, and fairness? Remember, these seniors, these elders have already contributed. They were taxpayers. They were establishing our systems and procedures, infrastructure. They helped the generation got up, rear up. But now they need us, the younger generation, need to pay back. Some tips, just stepping away while we find from systemic change. Here's how we can support our loved one right now. I'm trying to share what we can do individually for our seniors and our elders and the elders themselves. Meanwhile, keep fighting for improving the processes through which we can provide the care the seniors deserve. So, for instance, focus on nutrition for the carers. This message is provide small, frequent meals rich in protein, for example, eggs, Greek yogurt, lentils, to combat malnutrition and maintain muscle mass. Hydration is a key. Dehydration mimics dementia and causes UTIs. Offer water, juice, or jelly regularly. Use clear cups with markers. Cognitive engagement. Use music from their youth to simple puzzles or look at old photographs together. Connection is stimulation. Advocate gently but firmly. If you visit, check the care plan, ask questions. You are their external advocate. And care for the carer. Don't remember your own well being is also non negotiable. Take respite. For elders, move it or lose it. Prioritize daily movement. Please take a 10-minute walk. Chair yoga or Tai Chi drastically improves balance, mood, and sleep. Nourish your brain. Learn a new small skill. A few words of a language. A simple card game. A new recipe. Neuroplasticity is real at any age. Fight social isolation. Schedule regular contact, a daily phone call, a weekly video chat with grandkid, or a community group can be a lifeline. Do it. Get your hearing checked. Untreated hearing loss is a major driver of social withdrawal and cognitive decline. It's one of the most modifiable risk factor. And finally, find your purpose. However small it is, doesn't matter, but find it. For instance, like watering a plant. It could be in the pot or in the garden. Feeding birds, watching and caring for flowers, whether again in pot or ground. Folding laundry, telling a story, a sense of purpose is powerfully linked to longevity and health. Call for action. Finally, our elders have done their job, contributed to economy, and brought younger generation up. It's our time to pay our dues to them now. Contact your MPs, demand their support, legislated staffing ratios, and a public provider register. If you can, spend time with your elders in local facilities. Combat loneliness and be an extra pair of eyes. Resources, please note these, though they are already available on internet. But aged care crisis advocacy group, OPAN, older persons advocacy network, 1800 700 600. While we fight for the big system changes, there are things we can all do today to make a real difference. For carers, it's about being a little more um, gentle and yet remain a persistent advocate focusing on fundamentals, nutrition, dehydration. These can dramatically alter person's health and cognitive. Yes. Thank you for watching. Um, Next time, in the next vlog series, this ends the 10 issues that we started with. But from next time, I'm going to start three regular series apart from random other topics. And the series will include childcare and use of artificial intelligence, mental health and use of artificial intelligence, aged care and use of artificial intelligence. I will try put it once a week. Till then, you look after yourself. Take care. Bye bye for now.